integrating eSignet with existing ID systems. My name is Krishnan, and I head the country implementations at MOSIP. Okay, with me, we have Luke and we have Rathanak. But before they could introduce themselves, let me give you a quick view of what we are going to talk, or what are we going to learn from this session. So, I'm sure that some of you might have gone through what eSignet is in yesterday's discussions, but just to give you a very high-level view of what eSignet is, Anusha, please pardon me if I'm wrong, okay? At a very high level, a bird's view, what is eSignet? You have an ID system at one side, which is capable of doing authentication. It's a lot of capabilities are there in the ID system. One side, you have solutions on the other side, right? Portals, apps, healthcare solutions, insurance, voters registry, etc., etc., etc. This side is the ID system. What's our goal? We need to marry these two together, right? How do you do that? Straightforward. 1,000 applications. Take each application, modify that, bring in biometric capability, bring in authentication capability. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1,000. Oh my God, how much time it will take? A lot of time, and the country will give up. So what did we do? We brought in a middleware or a middle layer called eSignet. We said that, do not worry. You keep your applications as it is. A lot of hard work has been done on these applications. We will give you eSignet in between, which will do all the heavy lifting, okay? It will take care of reading biometrics from the biometric devices. It will take care of integrating with the backend authentication system. All you have to do is simply integrate with eSignet. That's all it is. One line code change. That's all. Done. You are done. 1,000 applications, 5 minutes. It's not really 5 minutes, maybe 5 hours. Okay? You're done. That's the power of eSignet. Okay? This is very high level introduction of eSignet. I hope you all understood what eSignet is. You all have become the champions of eSignet. Right? Now, we have two people, Luke and Rathanak, who have actually gone ahead. They have consumed eSignet. Luke is from Zambia. Rathanak is from Cambodia. Far away from each other, they said that eSignet is a solution. Now they will explain what they have done. Okay? So let me pass on the mic to Luke. Luke, why don't you introduce yourself? Who are you? Where are you from? And then we move on to the next one.
Okay. Thank you so much. So as Krish has already said, my name is Luke Mate. I'm from Zambia. I'm coming from an institution called Smart Zambia, also known as the Electronic Government Division of the Republic of Zambia. So basically the mandate of the division is that we are responsible for the e-government implementation of Zambia and digitizing the various electronic services that are offered by the government. And amongst those responsibilities is that we are required to manage various national data registers which are used for the provision of various services. And arising from there, we also have a project for the national ID, I think, which definitely, I believe, as we go on with our discussion, we'll be able to share a bit of more. So really, that is where we're coming in. That's the institution I'm coming from. So we are looking at digitizing the Zambian digital landscape to make it much more responsive and to improve service delivery to the citizens. In a nutshell, that's me and the institution that I represent. Thank you.
We will talk about Zambia more. Okay. Rathanak from Cambodia. Why don't you introduce yourself quickly?
Okay. Hello everyone. My name is Rathanak. So I am a team lead of the Digital Government Committee of Cambodia. So I am the lead as a technical lead for co-develop with MOSIP, specifically for eSignet to develop, I think the system that we already know, which is called One Unified Login. Yes, that's what we have done so far.
Good introduction. So these are two people we have two case studies, the Zambian case study and the Cambodian case study. So let's understand what this case study is. Why did they choose eSignet? What were the other approaches that they had in their mind? How is it going to solve it? So let's start with Luke. Luke, you have actually considered eSignet for some of your solutions in the Smart Zambia in Zambia. Okay, let's start with what is the problem statement that is there right now, and what are you trying to solve?
Thank you. So by way of defining what we're trying to resolve here, the use case in Zambia is we are looking at having an eKYC solution. So we are looking at eSignet to try and apply it as a solution for eKYC. Today we have, like I said, the country has been on a digital journey in terms of digitizing services. But then various services are being digitized by the various ministries. So you find each ministry has got its own mandate. So they have even certain registers. The revenue system have got their own solutions which they are running there. And then we have even just the banking community. They also have their own solutions. But now, due to the mandate that the institution has, we were asked to say, surely is there not a better way in which we can collect some of this data, which people are being asked for to provide at the various points of service delivery? And arising from there, we said, okay, of course, we can do certain things. We can look at various solutions which can help us develop what we are looking at today. So in our first use case, we are saying, can we see, we actually, may I make it clear that we are in the process of piloting this eSignet implementation. So we have picked a use case where we want to be able to do the eKYC, but in line with the health service. So we picked the health service to provide eKYC as well as authentication for the people that will be able to access this portal, which the country is already implementing. Thank you.
How has been the journey so far? You said that you've just started the pilot. What have you done so far in the pilot program?
Okay, so in terms of the journey so far, I think we've had certain engagements. Of course, key to all this is the planning. You need to know your landscape. We had to do identification of the various systems. So maybe I would say this, that because with eSignet, we are trying to get credentials from the various existing systems. So we are not implementing any registration anew. We have simply gone ahead and identified some trusted databases which we have within our ecosystem in the country. And one of the things that was very key for us is to identify systems which gives us some biometric capability. Okay, we have a project for the digital ID which is already ongoing. However, the enrollment has not yet reached I'd say a critical mass. I think we have in excess of maybe about 1.5 million people on the digital ID, which we are already doing. But then when you look at our ecosystem, the other services, people are already consuming digital services using dedicated solutions. So now the issue was some of them are doing it without any proper digital identification. And we were thinking, how then can we leverage on those solutions or databases which already have biometric capabilities or biometric records, and then use them as a source to provide to act as a source of truth for our users. So we did, of course, some round of selections within the country. We picked those databases which we thought have the required data sets, and from there we now had to come up again to identify what sort of information are we going to expose later.
Right.
So that engagement is what we've been able to do so far.
We'll actually talk about some of the challenges that anybody has with eSignet solutions.
Yeah.
So, Rathanak, what Luke said is one approach of using eSignet. So he said that there are already some existing data, there are multiple functional identities. So he's trying to actually bring eSignet in between, and the existing data is being reused. Okay, that's what he's trying to say. Now, can you explain what is the use case that you are trying to solve, and why are you considering eSignet?
Okay, so I think the objective of using eSignet itself, we want to have a single sign-on in one portal to assign to various government services.
Single sign-on, that's what you
Yes,
said. Okay.
SSO. But I think a little bit different between Cambodia and Zambia is the approach on how we onboard the user. Like for the Zambia case, is they already have the user registered with like other service identity. For Cambodia case, we have the user registration with the legacy system, but it's the thing that we want to use single sign-on or eSignet for is we want to at first we want to try to solve few problems. First is we try to combine various login systems to only one, and then how we can encourage or motivate user to onboard our system. So the solution that we have is we didn't want user to be like we start from the basic. We didn't like ask user to do like KYC, but instead we use the kind of conditional level access. What does it mean? I mean, you just need your phone number, and you can register it. You can do your self-registration. That if you can check an discovery solution, you can see in the demo in MOSIP, you will see like you can do the citizen, they can do their own self-registration. So what does it mean? To do that, they will get level 1. So you can imagine like it's similar to you register from social media account, so anyone can do it. But with level 1, we give them some basic access. So the objective of what we choose eSignet because it, like Chris already mentioned, it tries to solve to solve like the login problem.
Yes.
But another that we want to get from more from eSignet is the customizable feature that we can have conditional level access for our user. So user, they can use it only the phone number, register, and then they can access it. They can see the benefit of using our services, and they want to access more. They can upgrade themselves using KYC to get level 2. So when they get to level 2, they can do more action, like maybe to the Zambia case that they can do more action beyond basic level. That is the approach. So our approach, first we try to reach out our system to many people as much as we can.
Mm-hmm.
And to do that, we try to go with basic, and the eSignet, the use case like from the eSignet that we can customize it and to fit our need. And
sure.
yeah.
Sure. So if I understand what you said that there are 2 levels of trust-based integration with the ID system, level 1 and level 2. Okay, level 1 is simply creating a profile using phone number. Am I right on that? And level 2 is?
Level 2 user need to do KYC. So
KYC.
we has an existing ID system, but those existing ID system didn't support like SSO service or identity for login. But they can identify who is that person based on their picture and the ID card. So we connect our eSignet service to check the user via KYC with the existing system, and after we verify them, we will upgrade that user to level 2. So it means the trusted level of the user in the eSignet platform is going to be more. and they can access more feature in the government services.
That's interesting. You know, these two are completely two different use cases, right? They have two different levels of use cases. Level 1, no eKYC. Level 2, eKYC. Here, in case of Zambia, they're talking about eKYC-based authentication and eKYC-based solution. Now, one interesting that I want both of you, any one of you can go first, no problem, is one thing that is very important in eSignet is not an ID system, okay? You have to have any kind of an ID system behind the scenes, so it caters to an existing ID system, right? Countries already have an existing ID system in any form. It can be functional, it can be foundational. I think today you're going to have a session on brownfield implementation, so you can actually go there and understand how MOSIP caters to brownfield implementation. When I say brownfield, I mean by countries who have already invested in their existing ID system. They may migrate to MOSIP, they may not migrate to MOSIP, it's up to them, okay? But they don't have a mechanism for authentication, okay? So the question is, eSignet is in between. The backend is the ID system. There's a lot of reliance on the backend ID system. It has to be scalable, it has to be trustworthy, it may have APIs, it may not have APIs. So there has to be a mechanism how eSignet would integrate with the backend ID system. Okay. So Luke and Rathanak, what is the approach that is being considered to integrate eSignet with the backend ID system that you have?
Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, in Cambodia we have a legacy ID system. It works. Basically, it works. And the system they has the API that we can check. So the API they only based on the law. They didn't give us to access the information, but you can ask that API. Like we have the user photo, name, date of birth, and is it the correct information or not? And that API will respond. Oh, yes, it is the right information. It's not. So from our integration, it's like we do our eKYC to extract the information from the card, and from the user profile photo, they take the selfie, and then we use the data to check with the ID system. And when they return, like, okay, is it the right person, the right information of the person? So we will upgrade in our system. So we try to respect the law, that because we cannot, like, cannot give us the access to the user, the citizen information, but they still have some gateway for us to access, which is they give us one API to answer yes or no only. So okay, you give the information and they will return yes or no, and from there we try to customize our eSignet to utilize that API for our case.
So what you said is the backend system exposes an API.
Yes.
You send the data to the backend system, it will say yes or no, which means the ID exists or not. Okay?
Yes.
What do you do with eKYC? How does the eKYC come to eSignet?
So the eKYC, we will picking the solution provider in eSignet. So we will use the other solution provider to extract the information from the card, and as well as extract the information from the face. So to do that, we also need to care like some security. We have some security concern. That's why we opt for like some solution to do that for us, right? So we first use the service to extract the information from the card, as well as verify the likeness of the face, and we capture the one face, and we send those data to the Ministry of Interior to check. So that's the API is only check, but we need to make sure our data is like has some protected ledger, like anti-spoof, like credential safe, something like that. So that we need to have done at eSignet.
Thank you. Very interesting. So, Luke, I know that in your case you're doing a pilot. The story is beginning, but I think you have made some journey in terms of some understanding, deployment, etc., etc. You know, some discussions have already happened around eSignet. Okay, so in terms of your integration with the backend system that you have, what's the thought that is there in Smart Zambia Institute in terms of how are you integrating eSignet with the backend, whatever ID system you have, functional, foundational, whatever you want to call, and what is the approach towards integrating eSignet with the backend. So he said that no eKYC, it's all about yes or no. eKYC is already got when the card is scanned in between. The eSignet already does eKYC. The backend is only yes or no. Okay. In your case, what's the approach?
Okay. I think in terms of foundation in the two cases, we are still saying almost the same thing. Definitely the backend database has to be something which is already trusted. But remember, when the initial data was being collected in our foundation or in our backend database, in this case the civil register, they are collecting more than they are collecting more fields than what actually is required for some of the provision, for the service provision which we are talking about in this case. So what will only be exposed are only those fields. I think last time when we were checking, I think it was almost about 8 fields which were supposed to have been, which will be reading from the ID system. So it's only those 8 fields which we are hoping, in this case, I think, beyond just dealing with the yes or no, to facilitate the eKYC, those will be moved more or less into a register, which then register can be referenced to allow for data sharing. Yeah. And the reason why this becomes very key is we are alive to the fact that back home we have the Data Protection Act, which was signed into law, I think, in 2020. So it has the provision of consent management. So in this case, if we just read the data directly from the civil register and share this data without the consent, it becomes a problem for us. And that is one of the key reasons why we settled for eSignet, because we did something ourselves. Of course, data sharing is easy. We can easily make it happen. Just an API, expose the data, and you can share the data. But it is the other added components, such as how do you manage the consent aspect of it. So we have that is the architecture in terms of the backend. That's how we are looking at it. We'll be able to read some of the data, keep it in a certain intermediary kind of register, which you basically whether you call it a foundation ID database, where then these other data sharing apps or requests can then be made from there. So that's how we are looking at it.
Thank you. I think that's very interesting, both of you having 2 different case studies. I'm sure that the audience will be very useful for them. I guess we have good time for questions. So I want you guys to raise questions. If you want me to seed some questions, I could do that, but I've already been asking a lot of questions. Feel free to raise your hand and ask questions. We are open for Q&A.
Okay, thank you so much for the presentation. This will go to Luke. It's interesting to hear that Zambia is where you are. I'm basically interested in the challenges of convincing the different data owners to allow you go into their data. And you have also alluded to the point that you have a law protecting usage of privacy. How easy is it to go to different agencies? You said you're using systems from health. How easy was it to convince them? And what's your strategy to bring in more systems?
Thank you so much. Indeed, this experience, you realize that the technology aspect is the easy part. I think we can easily get this technology and plug it into your environment and you run with it. But it is the policy aspect which is very key. And I like the fact that that's the part which you are raising there. So, like I said, one of the things which we had the leverage on is that by law, our institution, which is the Electronic Government Division, has a mandate to manage or to create national data registers. So with that, the law is on our side. So we have the legal mandate to be able to set up these registers. But then, remember, the register, as opposed to the MIS systems, which are purely functional systems, is where the issue comes in. And even in our engagement, when we went to various institutions, remember, they were collecting data for their function, and they would collect excessive data, okay? So I'll give you an example of, we have the company registers, okay? For the company registers, which is under the mandate of an institution called the PACRA, their responsibility, when you are registering a company, you are required to provide a lot of information for the company to be registered. However, when we come to the register, we are telling them all we need from there is a subset of maybe 6 fields. That just identifies, gives us the identity of a company. It does not bring out these other maybe intrusive data, which is not necessarily required for the facilitation of trade or for the facilitation of a service by another entity. So we've had to do a lot of engagement and sensitizations with the institutions, because we know that beyond just using the law, which is more like your stick, there has to be that buy-in. And of course, in certain cases, we've had to use the law to prevail. But others have seen the value of what we are trying to do. And also, one of the key strengths to allowing for data sharing is the fact that we made it clear to them that it is not, you're not only a contributor to the ecosystem. You're not only a contributor, but also, remember, you also consume other data from the other players. So if each one of us locks in our data saying this is only for our use, then we make the whole ecosystem fail. So people then from that angle, they see the value of sharing some of those registers or that data which they have for the benefit of enabling the ecosystem of the country. So that's how we've been able to go around it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the presentation. The question goes to the delegate from Zambia. From all the discussions that we've had on eSignet, it is so much on document verification and authentication. The element of the signing of documents doesn't seem to come out. So in your use case, do you have any anticipations that there's going to be a component of digital signing of documents, or it is going to be verification, authentication, and it ends there? Thank you.
Okay, so when it comes to the eSignet use, we are simply looking at it at the point of authentication and verification, to provide for the eKYC functionality. Digital signing of documents, that on its own, we already have other systems already, which we are using for that. I can safely say in this space that we have another project called the GSB project, Government Service Bus Project, where government has been automating the various, or digitizing the various services to the citizens. As we are speaking today, we have in excess of, well, just about 300 electronic services which citizens can access online. Okay, so on that platform, those documents which are being issued, such as the title, land title, for instance, those are digitally signed. And we have a provision for that in terms of the law, which backs it up. So we have digital documents which we are pushing on that scale. And because of that acceptance as well, that is why even our digital identity journey, we are looking at even alternatives of how can we then have it, the identity to be able to be digitally signed and people recognize some of those security documents which you are going to be providing. So that is being covered on a different project and not necessarily with the use of the eSignet. I hope that is clear.